What are the circumstances that led up to you giving an inspirational talk to the Denver Broncos?
Well, I pastor a church, and there was a young lady attending our church who was also attending KU, which was during the time that Chris Harris was playing for KU, and he's quite a story. He was undrafted free agent by the Denver Broncos, and actually has turned himself into be quite a outstanding player, one of the top cornerbacks in the entire NFL. So he came along with his wife to our church several times and had a tremendous encounter with God one particular Sunday. And so after the service, we were kind of talking about it. And I just looked at him and I said, Chris, this is an answer to prayer because I felt like for several years that someday I would have a voice in professional athletes' lives. And so he kind of looked at me and he said, yeah, I can see that. He said, I'll see what I can do. So I didn't hear anything from him for months. And then one day I got a phone call.
When and where did this occur?
Well, the phone call I got was from their director of player development at that time. His name's Jerry Butler. And he was a first round draft choice by the Buffalo Bills, by the way, and then retired and began to serve the Broncos on their staff. And they were coming to play the Kansas City Chiefs, their dreaded rivals, on December 1st, 2013. And so they wanted me to give this inspirational talk the night before the game. And so it was November 30th at 7:30 at a hotel in Overland Park. And security was high, and they allowed me to bring two people with me. So, of course, I brought my two sons, Caleb and Justin.
What were your expectations going into this?
Well, I really didn't know how it all was going to go down. All they told me was I had 20 minutes. I would not be introduced. I would stand up in front of the team, and they told me to stand up, speak up, and then shut up. And, gave me some expectations of what they wanted me to do and what they didn't want me to do. And so I was pretty excited, to say the least. And so they took us downstairs in the basement of the hotel where they had blocked off the entire area. And there was about 6 rooms down there. One room was a TV room where a lot of players were watching their college football games on Saturday night. Then there was a room where there was a lot of food and drinks. Then there was a workout room and a massage area. And then there was, I believe there was a Catholic Mass going on one room, and then across the hallway from there was the room where we were going to have our time with the team. So, yeah, I didn't really know what to expect, but it was pretty exciting.
What did you talk about?
Well, when we came into the room, it was a little bit disappointing at first because there was only 2 or 3 players there, and of course Chris was one of them. So we just began to chat with him a little bit, and as I remember, you and Justin went to the back of the room and waited for the other players to come in. And it was supposed to start at 7:30, and by 7:25 there was hardly anybody in there. But by 7:30 there was 24 players, so about half the team that came in. And I looked around and there was no Peyton Manning. And I'm thinking, I wanted to preach to Peyton Manning one time in my life. So right when I was ready to start, the back door opens and in he comes. He walked right up the center aisle and stuck his hand out and said, I'm Peyton Manning, as if I didn't know who he was, and said, thanks for coming. And so I gave a lot of thought, of course, to what I would say to the Broncos, but I decided that I wanted to talk about what is true success in life, because I've lived long enough to see people climb what they thought was the ladder of success only to get to the top and realize it was leaned up against the wrong building. And so basically I boiled down success in life. The definition of success in life is to have the people closest to you love you and respect you the most. And so to illustrate that, I actually brought my son Caleb up to the front with me, and I explained to the group that I'm not only a pastor of a church, a pretty good-sized church, but I also serve as an official in the religious organization that I'm a part of, and I travel all over the world, and I meet a lot of important people, and I said, there's some people that think I'm kind of a big deal. I don't really think I am, but they do. But I told them, I said, I can be anything I want to be to people that don't really know me. But then I turned to my son Caleb, and I told them, I said, but this guy right here standing next to me, I can't fool. And if I have his respect, then I couldn't ask for anything more than that. And so that was the message, basically, that I wanted to give them.
What were your final impressions about this experience?
Well, the Denver Broncos were just awesome. As I recall, most every one of those players hung around to shake my hand and to thank me for coming. One of the things that was interesting was when I told Caleb to go sit down, when I was done with the illustration, Peyton Manning went, "All right, Caleb!" And he gave Caleb kind of a little hand clap. So that was impressive. And then I watched out of the corner of my eye as I was getting to meet some of the players, and we were just chatting. It's kind of interesting to see Wes Welker take notes on the things that you're saying, so that was impressive. And then I watched as Peyton Manning walked all the way across the room just to shake your hand and to make a 15-year-old kid's day. And that told me all I needed to know about the character of that man. He didn't have to do that. And so for that reason, unfortunately, the Chiefs didn't win the Super Bowl this year, but I was pulling for the old man because he seems to be a man of great character.
How much did they pay you?
Well, my usual speaking fee is $10,000, but no, I'm just kidding. They actually gave us 2 tickets to the game the next day. And so Caleb and I went to the game. It was a 3:25 start, and the Chiefs took a pretty quick lead. And by halftime, it was actually a pretty close game. But as I recall, we were kind of disgusted with some of the behavior in the stadium. So we left, and thank God we did, because we found out later that in the parking lot where we were parked, there was a guy that was shot and killed in the parking lot. It was a case of mistaken car identity, actually. Man thought somebody was in his car and he was in somebody else. He was in his own car. So he must have been drunk, I guess. But anyway, it was, other than that tragedy, it was a fun weekend for us and something we'll never forget.